when the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, someone he outranked in privilege, power, and the capacity to fight back. And this instinct to humiliate, when it's modeled by someone in the public.
Did she disclose something so shocking that even his Twitter account is suspiciously quiet? Or did his spray tan file for a restraining order? This type of drama gives the impression that reality TV is pre-planned. What is the truth then?
You and all of us in this room really belong to the most vilified segments in American society right now. Think about it. Hollywood, foreigners, and the press.
Thus, it seems that the room is extremely quiet. Well, Meryl just dropped a weighty truth bomb, save for the sound of a very orange man who was presumably launching his phone across a gold-plated room. It most likely caused a small earthquake in Mar-a-Lago. Something genuinely horrifying is being done by the weight of reality, forcing people to use their brains, and if there's one thing that people have avoided for years, it's forcing them to think.
It's embarrassing and it's terrifying to put the target on your forehead, and it sets you up for all sorts of attacks and armies of brown shirts and bots and worse. And the only way you can do it is to feel you have to. You have to. You don't have an option. You have to. Stand up, speak up, act.
Nothing is more frightening to an insecure man than having a strong, intelligent woman call him out in front of people who can read. Panic must be starting to set in. A group of public relations professionals are frantically putting out a fire somewhere in the depths of his gold-drenched lair. They most certainly didn't sign up, because when one of the greatest actresses in history calls you out, what do? With real facts, you flail and deflect, hoping that shouting it loud enough will somehow make reality vanish, rather than with outrageous accusations or tabloid nonsense.
I am Jesse Dollemore with the Occupy Democrats Report. So last night was the Golden Globes, and Meryl Streep gave a graceful acceptance speech in which she called for the support of the constitutionally protected free press, but also for kindness from everyone generally, but specifically our next president.
But in particular, our next president, Donald Trump, who ironically spent years cultivating his entire character around telling it like it is now witnessing someone else do it. This time though, it's not a show, and it's most certainly not a script written by a desperate speechwriter who is trying to make up 3 lies in each sentence. No, he is dealing with something much worse. It is indisputable. Within minutes, the meltdown began. The spell check feature on all platforms is broken due to an insane social media tirade.
Meryl Streep had some strong words for Donald Trump during her acceptance speech at the Golden Globes.
And conservatives don't seem to have an abundant supply of that these days. Okay, now then when she turned to Trump, she never said Trump, but it was obvious what she was talking about. Trump keeps denying that he did it to the reporter, but we've shown you the video 1,000 times.
We have the video for you.
Here.
Suddenly there is an aggressive insistence that Meryl is unimportant, that no one watches her films, and that he has a lot more awards, possibly the greatest and biggest ones. Hollywood is envious. The rest of the world, meanwhile, is occupied with watching the video again in slow motion, repeating each word, each precisely timed pause, and each devastatingly accurate observation that made one person redder than usual.
Who are you?
I have a lot of money. I built a lot of walls.
What are you doing here?
I'm going to be signing a national emergency. And it's been signed many times before.
So you don't read Runway?
No. Because you have an agenda and you're fake news.
You have no style or sense of fashion.
It should have been better. And you know what?
No. That wasn't a question.
Perhaps a fresh conspiracy theory has been added for good measure, something about lizard people in Hollywood controlling him because they are envious of his flawless genes, anything to divert his attention from the reality that, for once, he is unable to spin his way out of it. Somewhere knowing full, Meryl Streep is drinking tea. In less than 5 minutes, she destroyed a man's entire ego. But perhaps it's something more serious. Even his most devoted supporters had to stop mid-chant and say, wait, because it was so ridiculous and embarrassing. What? Since his true net worth is, let's face it, like a ghost that is always mentioned but never seen. A minute. One moment he's in court acting as though his wallet is thinner than his grasp of reality, and the next he's allegedly richer than entire nations. He's a real financial shapeshifter, and it's almost amazing how his finances seem to magically grow and shrink based on whether he's boasting or dodging responsibility. However, if that wasn't the case, perhaps the truth about his hair finally surfaced, because what is that, really? No, that is how a typical follicle structure acts. Is it a sentient entity from another dimension, a wig, or a tiny terrified animal fighting for its life? An article by a kind reporter about a desperate attempt to flee.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retract.
Well, I'm not sure what I said. Well, I can't recall. He's disappeared as if I've forgotten. Given that it was 14 years ago, I reasoned that perhaps I had said that. They haven't done a retraction yet. Whatever it is, it's somewhat fragile and stiff all at once, like a cotton candy sculpture exposed to the sun. Speaking of things that defy science, it's a bit too long. Let's discuss that renowned tan. If Meryl eventually verified that the shade isn't from a spray bottle, you know, the one with the unnatural radioactive glow would appear less healthy and sun-kissed and more like the result of a poorly executed scientific experiment. Instead, it was a government waste disposal program that was kept under wraps and went awry. Does the absence of color in nature really surprise anyone? No one appears to have ever seen the actual tanning process, but it looks like someone tried to Photoshop a human and went way too far with the saturation slider. No salons are taking accountability. No behind-the-scenes video of the glow-up in progress has been leaked. No, it's a mystery that most likely requires industrial-strength lacquer and a dedication to maintaining a traffic cone appearance in all lighting situations. Whatever Meryl disclosed was awful enough to send the internet into a full-blown meltdown, so let's take a moment to be serious. The damage control machine went into overdrive following one of his business meetings, hastening to tidy up the mess faster than a five-star hotel staff.
And I think that what she said, was really, the section she talked about bullying, and when people in these positions of power bully, it gives permission to everybody watching to engage in that kind of behavior, and I thought that was a really good point. Very good point. And look, he's about to assume the presidency, and it's the most consequential thing he'll ever do in his life, and I think, I hope that he can rise above, some of those kind of the more boorish behavior that he exhibited as an entertainer, but now as the president, I think.
But now that he is president, I believe it is unpredictable how he will react, because when his ego is wounded, his reaction is always somewhere between perplexing and completely insane. Would the outburst be so lengthy that Twitter servers would plead for pity? Would he try to change the course of events by saying that he had actually exposed her? Or would he try something even more absurd to divert everyone's attention? He insists during a press conference after making an abrupt announcement about running for King of the Moon. In fact, he created Hollywood. There's no doubt that whatever Meryl revealed wasn't meant to be public knowledge, but now that it has, the fallout will be absolutely hilarious to witness, and the internet will do what it does best: complete chaos. Twitter is exploding. Memes are flooding Instagram more quickly than he can block them, and TikTok, oh TikTok, is a battleground as Gen Z unleashes edit after edit, splicing his most famous scenes with dramatic slow zooms and clown music. Since his reputation currently has the structural integrity of a Jenga tower during an earthquake in the late-night comedy industry, his most devoted fans are out there attempting to perform digital CPR on it. Trump this morning is like Christmas morning.
Trump this morning, but there is new fallout from that showdown between him and Meryl Streep. ABC's David Wright has all the details. Good morning, David.
Good morning, George. Donald Trump is clearly still fuming over that speech, and Meryl Streep is in good company. Trump almost seems to be at war with Hollywood these days. And the question now, will they pay a price? After all, they've made an enemy of the man who's about to be president.
When the powerful use their position to bully others, we all lose.
Meryl Streep took Trump to task, among other things, for mocking a New York Times reporter with a disability. Trump denies he did it, but judge for yourself.
You got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
It kind of broke my heart when I saw it, and I still can't get it out of my head because it wasn't in a movie. It was real life.
You have perhaps the most highly regarded actress of her generation making an outright plea to people in Hollywood to remain vigilant and to defy.
Donald Trump may dismiss Streep now as one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood, but just 2 years ago he called her work excellent. It's only prompted her fans to make this hashtag trend: things Trump thinks are overrated. Actress Emmy Rossum tweeted, taxes, audio recordings, factual information, spelling. Another listed Hamilton, Jon Stewart, Jerry Seinfeld.
Even just watching the video of him reacting is hilarious. His expression alternates between that iconic look of forced confidence and obvious bewilderment. Despite all the evidence to the contrary, I was certain that I understood what was just said. Nod in the middle of the chaos somewhere. A poor intern is assigned to teach him how to use the internet, and let's face it, that kind of work ought to include hazard pay. However, his response is the real show. Since staying silent is never an option, he is typing with the ferocity of a keyboard warrior who has just lost an online argument rather than ignoring it like a normal person would, not to mention the typos. Oh, the wonderful typos that are causing spellcheck to quietly weep into its code. His sentences begin normally before degenerating into what appears to be autocorrect. Simply stop speaking in the middle and let fate take its course. His bunker somewhere. He is planning his next course of action, which, to be honest, could range from calling Meryl Streep a failed actress to claiming that he was the one who initially sparked her career. Just for kicks, he might introduce a fresh conspiracy theory, something crazy, something totally unrelated. Perhaps assert that she is a member of a covert Hollywood club where actors manipulate the weather. Part of the reason I'm at the podium is the weight of all my accolades. Next is the official damage control plan, which involves putting someone else in the spotlight. This man believes in creating distractions, so it could be a desperate attempt to bring another famous person into the mess. Will there be an unexpected conflict with Big Bird, or a last-minute press conference to reveal his new? If history has taught us anything, it's that he will undoubtedly attempt to portray this as a victory, and let's not forget the rally route in front of a room full of devoted supporters. This award for being the greatest president in the history of presidents is completely unmade up. He will most likely characterize himself as the most victimized person in history, where facts are merely ornamental and history is altered on the fly. Make a claim, Meryl Streep is merely envious of his success and will resort to the tried and true method if things get really bad. I'm the greatest at routinely receiving criticism, but the real question isn't what he'll say. Rather, it's how much more ridiculous this can get, because if anything, it will end with a full-blown meltdown, a conspiracy theory, and perhaps a poorly thought out merchandise drop.